Wonderful talk sports today. What do you think, gentlemen?
Absolutely. It's the night where St. Vincent just lost in the PAC semifinals, so it's a little somber night. Us being fellow Bearcats.
Don't even get me started on that, Noah. But we'll get into that later.
Yeah, but it is a great day to talk sports, as we always say.
Phenomenal.
Like they said, we're talking about the PAC playoffs. We're going to talk about how St. Vincent has been doing, what they're going to do from this date and time. We're going to also talk about the Manny Machado deal and what that means for the MLB. Another topic, LeVeon Bell, free agency, where he's going to go. Finally, we're going to talk about the premier game of college basketball. Duke-UNC, which is also going to raise the question of what are some of the greatest rivalries in sports. But going back to the PAC playoffs and St. Vincent, we're coming off a tough loss here. So, Maui, what are your thoughts on it?
It was a tough game to go to. Noah and I, we saw it from the booth. 54-51 loss against Chatham. A lot of effort from Chatham. They came out, played very physical, executed very well under a very young coach that, frankly, I think Noah and I think that he outcoached Don Paul Harris tonight. What do you think, Noah?
Yeah, first I'd like to point out what a great atmosphere the Carey Center was. I know
it was rocking.
Yeah,
rocking. It was a very raucous crowd. You don't see those very often.
And I turned it as soon as Maui and I got into the gym. It was about 7 minutes before the tip off, and I looked over at Maui and I said, "Man, this is going to be something to remember tonight." And we talked to our boss, I guess, Jeff Ziddick.
Yeah, Jeff Ziddick, very nice guy.
And he said, and he's been here for a good while now, and he said that's the loudest that he's ever heard the Carey Center. So commend the St. Vincent fans and even the Chatham fans, I guess. They brought a nice group of fans.
Bus, yeah.
But, yeah, it was tough loss and a tough way to end the season for the Bearcats. This is the second year in a row now that they've gone down in the conference tournament in
disappointing ways.
In a disappointing fashion. And if we're going to get into the game here a little bit, St. Vincent had the best offense in the President's Athletic Conference this year, and that's what they took pride in. And they took pride in their defense too, but they relied on their offense heavily, and they only put up 51 points tonight. So kudos to Chatham for shutting down the dominant offense of the Bearcats.
I think when it came to Chatham, they shut down probably the biggest force of the Bearcat offense is Tom Kromka, who has had a phenomenal year this year. He scored his 1,000th point. I mean, what do you think, Maui?
Yeah, you know what? Big fan. I know Noah and I covered him in a few games we broadcast, and we were both big fans of Kromka. And tonight, they shut down the two-headed monster of the big men for St. Vincent, Ryan Dunn and Tom Kromka. I think those two players probably had the best night of any St. Vincent players they had. But unfortunately, they weren't able to pull out the win.
Yeah, we didn't hear Mike Simmons' name very much tonight. And
no.
First, I'd like to commend Mike Simmons and Tom Kromka.
Definitely.
Two outstanding players, and they'll be remembered here at St. Vincent for a long time. They'll go down as two of the best players in this program's history. And Chatham, again, if we're going to talk about the game, Chatham shut those two down in the first half, really, and shut Mike down the whole game. Mm-hmm. Mike finished with 4 points, and Chatham, as soon as Mike got the ball, they were right on him. They didn't want Mike. They know Mike's a great three-point shooter, and they didn't want Mike to shoot outside. And Tom, Maui and I talked about it during the game. Every time Tom got the ball, he was getting double-teamed in the post.
They were sagging off the other SVC players.
Tom was 6 of 14 from the field, so credit Chatham's defense for that.
Yes, and Ryan Dutton, I know, played alongside. He started tonight. I know Shamar Bennett, another big loss for SVC tonight. He was out with a concussion. Ryan Dutton had a little bit of an ankle issue in the game, but he was still able to produce well. I believe he had 13 points in the game, and hopefully the future looks bright for that young player too.
Yeah, one last thing for myself, Dad. I just want to give a congratulations to Chatham's first-year head coach, David Richards. He did a heck of a job, and Chatham's a scrappy team.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That's, and I've been to a lot of basketball games, as we all have.
Yes.
That's one of the best defensive efforts I've ever seen a team put in for 40 minutes in a game. I mean, from the tip-off, they were hard.
Yeah.
They were playing hard.
Up in their face, up in St. Vincent's face.
Yeah, and the refs let them play. The refs let those kids play
the whistle the
whole game. And I thought that, the fans weren't very happy, but
that tends to happen either or.
Especially in a loss like that. But I thought the refs did a good job, actually.
Yeah, you know what? I agree with you, Noah. They really did. I know the student sections probably got in their ear a lot. Even the coaches, I think DP was stomping and clapping on the floor.
I love the intensity.
The intensity by Don Paul Harris. Unfortunately, the intensity from him and the student section of SVC didn't help.
Yeah, Chatham came in, and they didn't let the crowd bother them, not one bit. And again, that's credit to them for handling the situation and the PAC Final Four very well.
I mean, you're talking about getting into the game. I mean, when I walked in, I walked in a little after tip-off, and Chatham's bench was so into the game. Yeah. It seemed like our bench wasn't into it at all. I don't know if that's what...
I think that... I wouldn't say that our bench wasn't into it, but because of the location of our bench and how close they are to the student section, it kind of blended in. But I could see that Chatham's intensity was just on another level. Every player,
starters
on that team,
and bench players, were just into the game.
They went 150%. They didn't let up the whole game, and to come in as the number 4 seed and go and play at the number 1 seed, you have to play with that intensity.
And, as we said, SVC, they only have 2 seniors, so they're a very young team. Maybe, the big lights got to them a little bit, rattled them a little bit. But anyway, great season from them.
Yeah. Great season to the Bearcats, and good luck to Chatham moving on to the conference championship on Saturday. And they'll take on Westminster.
Yeah. All right.
So we're continuing talk here about the PAC playoffs, and we'll talk about the women's team. Maui, we were at the game, both games.
Yeah, both.
What were your thoughts?
Well, to start off, their semifinals against Hill. They played very well. Very defensive battle in the beginning. Kayla Slavenik, face guarding the Till's best player, number 20. Yeah, face guarding her the whole game. Off the bench, though, Carly Kilgus had an amazing game. I believe 21 points off the bench, and you know what? I think we had an interview with Coach Petruska after the game, and he was really excited about that.
Which we will play in this. Yeah. And what a game! Honestly, I think that the semifinal game was a better game than better game than the championship game, which was surprising because Teal was the number 8 seed. They barely got into the conference tournament, and we said the whole game they didn't look like an 8 seed. I mean, they gave St. Vincent all they could handle, and St. Vincent really handled the pressure well, and it was neck and neck the whole game. It was Teal up by 1, then St. Vincent would retake the lead.
Yeah. And a big part was the student section, that electric energy in the Carrier Center.
Coach Petruska mentioned it in his interview. What a great atmosphere it was, and it's something that the college needs. It
just showed a lot of pride that St. Vincent has in their athletics.
And to go off your point from earlier, St. Vincent really held Vormelker in check. Kayla Slavenik did a great job playing defense on her. Like you said, she face guarded her from the tip-off. And Coach Petruska said that he believes that it frustrated her. And I agree with him. So moving on, they win that game. Then they play in the championship against Washington and Jefferson. And a dominant win for the Bearcats.
Yes.
And what were your thoughts on that game?
Boy, I think W&J hit the first 3. I think once
they did.
Yeah. So once at the start of it, I thought, wow, this is going to be high scoring, But after a while, St. Vincent just dominated with their active hands. They got a lot of loose balls. Yeah. I think Maria Morgan poked a lot of balls out during that game.
Yeah. And another great atmosphere for the 3rd straight day. The student section was loud. And I think that honestly, the Bearcats, they played great. The student section was a big part of that win, I believe.
Yeah.
But all 3 days. Well, the first day for the men's game, which we talked about earlier, unfortunately they lost. But that atmosphere just carried on the next 2 days for the Lady Bearcats. And, we were surprised that Washington and Jefferson played a lot of zone.
They did.
And St. Vincent found all the openings in it. And St. Vincent's a very good outside shooting team. They can shoot well from three-point range, and that really showed.
Yeah.
So I didn't completely understand why Washington and Jefferson would go into a zone there, but
And their defense really helped. St. Vincent's defense really helped them in the second quarter, only allowing W&J to score 7 points the whole second quarter.
yeah, there was a long stretch. There was a long period of time where Washington and Jefferson didn't have a field goal.
They couldn't buy it, but they had good looks to the basket.
Yeah.
They just couldn't make it. What can you do?
And here's our interview with Coach Petruska after the semifinal game.
Big one too.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, congratulations, Coach, on a big win. And what was the key to that victory for you guys tonight?
The key, just I guess waiting for the right moment and opportunity to do what we did, to kind of break it open a little bit. I thought our defense was obviously, I think, what won us that game. We hit some key shots down the stretch and at big times. I thought Carly Kilgis had a phenomenal game. Rhea Morgan hit a huge three to answer what Bull Milker hit from Teal. But, I haven't looked at the final stats, but, we frustrated Bull Milker. I don't think she got many clean looks. And, I'm sorry. I'm just really
you're good.
not
Congratulations,
overwhelmed.
Coach.
But thank you. Yeah.
I know the whole team excited. So are you. What do you think the feeling in that locker room is right now?
Oh my gosh. Well, you felt the energy in the gym. It's a phenomenal setting. We've dreamed about having an environment like this. We think it's what the college needs. We think it's what our students need, like that. You got to bleed green and gold and that kind of pride and spirit. And I think this whole athletic department would benefit greatly from that kind of environment. So what we're feeling in there is just like a heightened sense of, excitement and, just excitement. I mean, it's awesome. I mean, the energy and the student section was great. The whole fan base was excellent. We had a big fan base in the previous game, and they kind of influenced what we did. Whereas tonight, I thought what we did was complemented by their eruption. I don't think what they were trying to. They weren't trying to influence what we didn't want to do.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I mean and we need that. I mean that's what home court advantage is all about.
Thanks, Coach. We appreciate it.
No problem. Yep.
Alrighty, let's talk the Manny Machado deal. 10 years, $300 million.
Boy.
That is, they said that's the biggest contract in MLB history. What, my first question is, what can a man do with $300 million? That's just unheard of.
If you've seen Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort did a lot with $300 million. He made what, $50 million a year?
Yep.
The only thing, Manny Machado, he's getting his money legally, but
That's true.
Hey, big fan of Jordan Belfort.
Yeah, absolutely. I can tell you right now, though, that contract, no player, and you guys can disagree with me, but I'm sure you won't. No player's worth that money.
No.
$30 million a year.
Well, you got to think about it. I agree with you, Noah, but once again, in MLB, a career could last you like 20 years.
Yeah, and there's no salary cap either,
Yeah,
which is a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't see these kind of deals happening in the NFL or the NHL.
The NHL especially. I mean, the NHL, it seems like they try and do bargain deals. I mean, in the MLB, it's you have a couple good seasons, you get paid a crap ton of money. I mean,
Once again, injury is not, I think, a big part in that too. You have a better risk of having a career-ending injury in NHL than you do MLB.
Yeah, I mean, and the salary cap goes off of, the Players Association. There's still a lot of free agents out there that aren't signed yet that are very good players. Bryce Harper. He wants. It's surprising he's not signed yet, but he's typically a home run hitter. He hits more home runs than
For average.
than he hits for average, and A lot of teams that probably scares them away. Now, Bryce Harper, anyone would want to have Bryce Harper on their
Yeah,
team.
very true.
But
Very true.
Yeah.
that one statistic, Bryce Harper hits home runs rather than hitting for average. That might scare some teams off on giving him a Manny Machado type contract. But I think that another reason Machado and Harper waited this long to sign was because they wanted to see who would sign first, and they would base what they get off of what the other person got.
Yeah,
So
like a bidding war kind
yeah,
of.
exactly. So this is what Bryce Harper could have been waiting for. And Bryce Harper was supposedly almost had a deal with the Phillies.
Yeah.
But it sounds like that kind of washed away even today. And we'll see what happens there. But there's still a lot of free agents that are available that are good players.
Yep. I mean, you got Dallas Keuchel, you got Adam Jones, Ian Kimbrell. I mean, Craig Kimbrell.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, you're
Sorry.
fine.
But I mean, you got all these all-star caliber players. Keuchel and Kimbrell, 2 all-star pitchers. I mean, how are these guys still on the market? I mean, you wonder why.
Yeah, I don't really look into the, player association bargain very much with the league, but for those type of players to still be out there, and all these teams have pretty much reported to spring training already, there's something in there that needs to be changed. Whether it's something with the MLB, the head of it, or the Players Association, I'm not sure. I'm not going to talk about it because I don't really look into it very much, but yeah, and maybe the Pirates should start looking at some of these.
Well, Bob Nutting doesn't like to spend money.
Yeah, which
he's
is a
more
problem.
he's more worried about Seven Springs than he is.
I mean, neither do the Dolans for the Tribe. I mean, they spent on Encarnacion 1 year. I mean, I can't say much because he has the Dolans have been spending money now. So I mean, the Indians have been doing good the last couple seasons, but we'll see. I mean, speaking of spending money, Le'Veon Bell finally a free man.
Yeah,
I'm coming off the Steelers contract.
He's happy about it.
His tweet.
Yeah, he's very happy about it.
Free at last.
Thank God Almighty, he's free at last. I mean, now that he can go wherever he wants, where do you guys think he's gonna go?
Obviously, a team with a ton of money. He's that kind of player, I guess, nowadays.
Yeah.
But is he going to get the money that he wants, or do you think that it will go down a little bit?
With a let's say a lackluster franchise, yeah, probably maybe the Jets, like you guys said earlier.
Yeah.
If he wants to win, I could see maybe the Chiefs for 1 year, but I think Le'Veon's more worried about the money than he is winning, which is a shame nowadays. But
And another
it is what it
question
is.
I have to pose to you guys: did sitting out the whole year hurt his market? I guess.
I honestly feel that might have helped him because he could have gotten hurt in his contract year. That this is a contract year. I mean, he could have blown a knee. He could have hurt his ankle. He could have hurt his stock. How the same reason why Joey Bosa kind of quit at Ohio State. Because if he would have played and came back from that abdominal injury, that would have hurt his draft stock. And if Le'Veon would have gotten hurt, that would have hurt his stock to get paid more money. And I feel like that's what it's about.
Nick Bosa. Yeah.
Nick Bosa, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
You're good.
I actually agree with you, but I also see the other side too, where these teams who are pursuing Le'Veon Bell could look and say, "Hey, James Conner had a Pro Bowl year. Was it the Steelers' great offensive line that helped?" Now, Le'Veon Bell is a great receiver also, but we don't know what kind of shape he's in. We'll see when he reports to training camp.
If he gets signed with the team.
But yeah, I agree with your point of view on maybe it helped them, but I also can see the other side that, hey, maybe it actually did hurt him sitting out a year. You're never going to recover in your career losing $14 million. I mean, that's what he lost, $14.5 million. He's set, but again, he threw $14 million down the drain.
And he also gained a year left on his career, sitting out a year. If any injuries occurred that we didn't know about, maybe they've gone away now. And hopefully he can help any team that picks him up, which he probably will. But I think it all depends on how that team takes him in and produces him.
So, Maui, you said you think he's going to go to New York. No, where do you think he's going to go?
I actually said the Jets or Indianapolis.
You think the Jets? I I'm with you on the Indianapolis deal.
I know Indianapolis is really pursuing
Indianapolis,
him, and he wants to play there.
They've got the most cap room. They've got Andrew Luck at quarterback.
Young
They've got
team.
young team. They've got an all-star O-line. That's like what he had in Pittsburgh.
It's like a match made in paradise for
Exactly.
him. And if Indianapolis is willing to give him the money that he wants, he wants how much guaranteed over the first 2 years?
Like a wide receiver money. Like what?
It's like $50 million almost guaranteed
Yeah.
over the first 2 years he wants, which is,
That's-
I think that's just ridiculous to give a running back.
Yeah,
You know,
I think
and I'm honestly glad that finally the Steelers are setting him free.
I think sometimes running backs are just like a dime a dozen. I think it all depends on the offensive line. Look at the Rams.
absolutely.
I mean, I'm not saying Todd Gurley's like not as good as he is, but he's great. But that offensive line, they started all 16 games and they're very coherent and they work well together. So I think it all depends on the offensive line. Even Emmitt Smith with the Great Wall of Dallas in the 90s.
Yeah.
I think it really depends on the offensive line.
All right. Well, I mean, moving on to our next topic. I mean, the basketball game of this week, Duke UNC. There's a big scare at the beginning of the game. The freight train himself, Zion Williams, busted through his own shoe, and I guess he did something to his knee. I heard there were reports today that it was a light knee sprain.
Yeah,
He's considered
it's-
day to day, so it's a lot better than people expected. But no, what do you?
Yeah, it's a knee strain. Coach K, actually, we listened to his post-game conference after the game last night. He was very concerned about it, which, I mean, when you see your best player and let's all be honest,
The best player in college.
the best player in college basketball, the number 1 draft pick next year, go down and grab the back of his knee or any part of your knee, you're going to be nervous as a head coach, not only for your team the rest of the year, but for the kid's future. The game, Maui and I watched the game together. Actually, we were taking some notes for this podcast, but it didn't live up to the hype that we were hoping because everyone was there. I mean, tickets were going for $2,900.
The main attraction was out in 30 seconds.
33 seconds.
Yep, 33 seconds.
Barack Obama was
Yeah,
there,
well,
Ken
at least
Griffey
people-
Jr. Let's be honest. All these people didn't come to watch Duke, North Carolina. They came to watch Zion Williamson.
Yep.
And I'll be honest with you. In my opinion, Duke without Zion, they don't have enough scoring. R.J. Barrett and Cam Reddish, they're not going to be able to lead this team to a national championship without Zion.
Maybe not even through the ACC tournament.
Yeah, and even if they don't make it through the ACC tournament, I'd say they'd probably still get a top, maybe even a 1 seed still, but a 2 seed for sure. But without Zion, I don't see this team going past the Sweet 16. I'm going to make a bold prediction.
Yeah. The biggest losers of that game were the people that went to the game. They were spending almost $3,000 on a ticket. I mean, they spent $3,000 just to see Barack Obama at a basketball game. And for Duke, obviously it's very scary to watch the best player go down. And I don't think Zion would have had a problem if he was wearing like big baller brand, maybe the ZO2s.
Your boy LeVar. Maybe
Yeah, my boy LeVar.
Maybe you give LeVar a call, tell him to get Zion a new pair of shoes.
Well, he's a big baller. He can afford it.
Did you want to go, Isaac?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, with Zion going down, there was a lot of talk on social media. I mean,
I think I posed the question. I know what you were going to say.
Yeah.
And this is why I posed this question, because I knew this would stir up answers. What do you think? So the question was last night, 33 seconds into the game, the last time we'll ever see Zion Williamson in a Duke uniform? Now, the easy answer would be no, but this kid has a future to look forward to,
Yeah.
Although I did see something this morning that he has some kind of insurance policy where if he gets drafted 16th or below, due to an injury, he gets $8 million right off the bat.
Wow.
So what was your
I
answer?
was going to talk about Donovan Mitchell tweeting about how the NCAA got all this money and Zion got hurt, and
absolutely.
these kids aren't seeing any of the money. And this goes back to the question that should Division I athletes get paid? I mean, I had a kid who I went to high school with, Jerome Baker. He now plays for the Dolphins. He's a linebacker for the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they don't. They go to class every day like every other student. They work out, they eat, and they go to practice every day, and they have almost no time. And these athletes, they put so much time into this sport. Their schools get so much money, and they don't see any of it. And I think my father had a idea where the coach, if he likes the students that much, and it's incentive to keep the kids in college basketball as well. If the kids want to stay, the coach can create a fund, a mutual fund for the students, for each of his basketball players. And when he graduates, he gives the mutual fund to the student as a graduation gift, because you can't give the athletes money when they're on campus, but once they're graduated, you can do whatever you want with them.
Yeah, especially a player like Zion Williamson, who
Exactly.
Mhm.
And that also,
I mean, think about the ticket sales,
Yeah.
the
if
money,
you-
the
if you-
revenue.
If you
that's
get them
coming
there
in
for
Duke.
4 years,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess to go back to the game, we talked about Zion and everything, but I don't think we gave enough credit, and I don't think anyone gave enough credit to UNC.
Yep.
Luke May
had a hell of a game.
30 points, and Cam Johnson, the Pittsburgh native from Moon Township, he had 26 to go along with that Pitt transfer. He didn't belong at Pitt. He belonged to a school like UNC, and I'm glad to see him producing there. And again, we have to give credit to UNC, because even without Zion,
Yeah.
Duke still has 2 potential top 5 draft picks in their lineup, in Reddish and Barrett. But give UNC a lot of credit, and Roy Williams as well.
Yeah,
he
and,
did he had a hell of a coaching night.
And when Zion went out, Duke, one of the worst shooting teams in the
Horrible behind the arc. Horrible.
They just settled for big three or long threes. They didn't care. Offensive rebounding too. I think UNC did amazing on that. I heard Duke doesn't even practice offensive rebounding or any rebounding.
Well, any team that has Zion Williamson in their lineup doesn't have to practice rebounding, but what happens when you lose them?
Yep.
And we talked about it from the get-go. UNC started off fast, and I don't think that Duke ever caught up, because they were so emotionally strung
Rattled.
from losing.
Rattled. Yep.
They lost their best player 33 seconds into
Yep.
the game. That's hard to recover from. And Zion Williamson isn't just their best player. He's something that we haven't seen before.
No.
He's an 18-year-old kid.
Almost 300 pounds,
Yeah.
moving that quick and jumping that high. We don't
Very
see that at
athletic.
all.
It's unheard.
I don't know if you guys have seen the video. There's a video when they were playing at Virginia,
Yeah, of his block.
and the kid has a wide open 3, and here comes
Mhm.
Zion from the paint.
Yeah.
He jumped from the paint out to the 3-point line and blocked the shot. I've never witnessed anything like that before in my life. That was, and I know the caption on Twitter was, "Isn't this the most athletic thing you've ever seen in your life?"
I mean,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think of it like that, that's kind of like Michael Jordan in Space Jam. Like it
Yeah.
just doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
You got
I
the
know.
hand up, like just going.
Yeah.
But we're talking about this Duke UNC game. I mean, people say this is a great rivalry, but I mean, what are the greatest rivalries of sports? I mean, what do you guys think? Because didn't we put a Twitter poll up about
Yeah,
it,
we
right?
did.
Correct.
Yes, we did.
I think that involved Lakers, Celtics, Yankees, Red Sox, UNC, and Duke, as we just talked about, and Ohio State, Michigan State, or Michigan.
Yeah,
and I know, Isaac, you love your Ohio State.
I love Ohio
You
State.
go right ahead and talk about Ohio
All
State,
right.
Michigan.
I mean, Ohio State Michigan is one of the oldest rivalries in football. I mean, if your rivalry is known as the game, it's got to be important. And that's one of the. I love Ohio State. Being from Ohio, I love Ohio State.
Great talent.
It's Columbus, wonderful
You
town.
guys are going to miss Urban.
Herb is. I mean, he's still in the building. He's the
Yeah.
assistant athletic director, but he will be missed next year. But I mean, that game, just the atmosphere of the game. My father went when they played at the Big House in Michigan when he lived up in Detroit. He said the atmosphere of that game is unlike anything you've ever seen. Just the pure intensity on both sides of the football. And he was there when Desmond Howard played for Michigan.
Yeah.
And just the intensity of that game and how both teams go at it. Like Ohio State, every year, Michigan is circled, no matter what. That's their game they need to win every year. And Jim Harbaugh hasn't won a game against Ohio State. Just I'd
And
just
they
like to
got
throw that out there.
smacked this last year by
They
Ohio
were,
State.
and Michigan had the number one defense
Yeah,
in the nation.
yeah,
they
they
put
got
up
smacked.
42 points against the number one team in the nation, something like
I
that.
think I turned it off after
It was
a while, so.
it was like kicking a dead horse. It was horrible. But I mean, it's what are the rivalries?
So if you did vote on the Twitter poll and if you should go follow us on Twitter off the bench. The results were, so we had 51 total votes, and the options were Duke, UNC, Red Sox, Yankees, Ohio State, Michigan, Lakers, Celtics. Red Sox, Yankees got 41% of the vote. Duke, UNC had 27%. Ohio State, Michigan had 24%, and Lakers, Celtics had 8%. I think that was accurately described by people voting, and do you guys want to tell who you casted your votes for? I'll say I casted my vote for Red Sox Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
Being a big baseball fan, not only, but I mean, even if you're not a baseball fan, when you think of Major League Baseball and you think of rivalries, Red Sox Yankees, and it's been like that for forever.
And we talked about that a little bit before when we were playing the episode that Red Sox and Yankees is one of the big rivalries you always think about in sports.
Yeah, and so many players on each of those teams have gone to play.
Have gone to play on either side of it.
Opposite, and
Yep.
I think that's the really cool part about this, and the rivalry continues each year because both teams are taught. When you get drafted by these teams, you're taught.
Team.
You're taught to hate the other team, and it comes up. I mean, you go back to the A-Rods, the Johnny Damons, the Mariano Riveras. I mean, those are Babe Ruth. I mean, go back to Babe Ruth.
Yeah, when he got traded.
And Babe Ruth was another one of those players who was a New York Yankee and a Boston Red Sox.
He's the reason why the Red Sox didn't win a World Series in however many years. It was the curse of the great Bambino. I mean, when you have great players on, and now even more than ever, there's great players on both sides of this rivalry. Now it's the youth revolution. It's Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton versus J.D. Martinez and Mookie Betts. And you got these power bats just hammering the ball like we're back in the 90s and everybody's juicing, but they're not anymore.
Yeah.
They just lighten the balls. But
so who did you guys vote for? Isaac, I'm going to go with you voted for Ohio State,
I, of course, voted for Ohio State, Michigan.
You're loyal. I can
loyal.
understand. Maui?
Well, I wouldn't say it's the best on the list, but it's definitely my favorite and the one I voted for. Lakers, Celtics.
Yeah, that was surprising to me that it got.
Very
now the
low.
other three were very strong rivalries.
Oh,
so,
definitely.
And they're very well known. So Lakers Celtics has been well known, but we all know that it's kind of gone
dwindling
downhill.
down right now because Lakers all they have is LeBron right now, and Celtics, they're powerhouse in the East.
Celtics are kind of spiraling, though.
Yeah, Kyrie, I don't know what's going to happen with him, but we'll talk. That's for another show.
That's for another show.
So when I think of the Lakers, Celtics, I think of Magic, Larry,
Kareem
Abdul-Jabbar versus Robert Parrish, Kevin McHale,
Bill Walton.
Yeah, Bill Walton.
Yep.
Even before that, Wilt Chamberlain versus Bill Russell.
Russell. And
Great
Jerry
time.
West in that.
Jerry West too. The logo.
Yep. The logo of the NBA.
And the Celtics, they have the most NBA championships with 17, and Lakers second with 16. So, little fun fact right there for you.
We actually had one of our followers DM us. I think I brought this up to Maui. Isaac,
you didn't tell me.
He said, "What about Penn's Caps?" And I said, "Yeah, that's definitely something that we should talk about." But compared to those four, Penn's Caps hasn't been as long served as a rivalry. And the thing about rivalries is the three that we've talked about. If you look at the career head-to-head matchups are pretty even. Career records.
Yeah.
Penn's Caps has been very one-sided, especially in the playoffs.
It's very one-sided, and with the Penn's Caps rivalry, it's not really a rivalry of Penn's versus Caps. It's more Ovi versus Sid.
Yes.
Is really what it is. And I feel like if either of them goes anywhere else, it's always going to be Ovi versus Sid, who's the better player.
Mm-hmm.
Ovechkin obviously has more goals in his career than Crosby, but Crosby's the far better playmaker.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you can tell by the number of cups Crosby's won, which is
3.
compared
Yes.
to Ovechkin's 1.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
It's kind of like, KD versus LeBron. KD being more of a scorer. So same with Ovi. And
Yeah.
Sidney being more all-around player with LeBron, just like LeBron.
And that's all we have for this episode of Off the Bench. We'd like to thank our producer, Phil Montalbano. We'd like to thank Mrs. Jennifer Yankoviak for inviting us into her marketing class. Mr. Dave Saffin for providing us technology.
And another thanks goes to Jeff Zidek, mentoring Noah and I, allowing us to do some sports broadcasting here on the St. Vincent campus. Mark Locke for putting his input on for us on Twitter about NBA or MLB free agency, and Kevin Tregoning for his input about the Caps and Pens rivalry.
Thanks for listening. Tune in next week.